What is your nobody will ever believe this story? I knocked a cup of coffee off my counter and caught it, and no coffee spilled out of it. Burn the witch. One time when I was a teenager I was playing pool with friends. The pizza arrived, or whatever, and I took one last shot, just as everyone was leaving, and sank like 5 balls. It was the single best move I have ever made in any game I have ever played. But no one saw it, and there was no way to take credit for it without sounding like a liar. I miss playing pool in bars. One time me and 2 friends met a couple of haggard looking biker dudes and asked if they wanted to play a game. One guy took a trick shot and imagined the white ball, 8 ball, and whatever ball he was sinking in a straight line in that order. Dude managed to make the white ball jump and skip the 8 ball and perfectly sink the colored one. Looking back at it, it's probably a really common trick shot, but to us young 20-somethings it was pretty awesome. That is common, but you got nowhere, and he hard to hit it to direct it to your target ball, so it takes a bit of skill. You also don't want to rip the fabric, or whatever. I've seen it most often done accidentally by inexperienced/drunk players, like myself, and it seems the less experience the more it happens. It comes down partly due to stick, cue, control, and a lot of people hold it in a dumb ASD way, like a cigarette. Palm in wood, which gives virtually no control for guiding it. Was doing a service call at an equestrian farm. I went to the bathroom in the barn to take a leak. The door was slightly ajar and the light was off. I pushed open the door and hit the light, only to see a goat dressed in a fleece vest eating toilet paper off the roll. He gave me this look like to say, "WTF are you looking at?" I turned off the light and left. That's very on-brand goat behavior. Orlando Bloom winked at me once when walking past. I'm a dude. Heath Ledger was sitting in my seat on an airplane when I was about 13 on a family holiday. I knew him only from 10 Things I Hate About You at the time, and it was my favorite film ever. He was in the right seat, but on the wrong plane, and jumped up and ran across the tarmac. Simpler time. Small airport in Spain. No one ever believes me! Exclamation mark. I was once arrested for dueling. That was the charge. Please. Details, sir. He was charged being a 4th-rate duelist with a 3rd-rate deck. I saw a bird unscrew a light bulb once. Just one bird. Yep. Just one. It worked at it for a long time. I once threw the inside of a pen at least 9 foot clear across a room and skewered a fly that was annoying me. Legit, I felt like a ninja and have no way to prove it to anyone. Not gonna lie, it's probably my peak and it's all been downhill ever since. That's one of those things in life that the odds are so high of ever happening. Once I was partying with friends. We were on a ecstasy bender day 2. All the lights off in a dark basement. One friend asked us for a lighter. We couldn't see him, just the dark. My cousin, without trying, threw it, and it landed perfectly in said friend's hand. It was unbelievable. Never would happen again in a lifetime. Similar situation with a lighter. We were smoking in a small room and my buddy said, "P bud lighter." Other buddy proceeds to throw a bullet right into the first buddy's hand. The weird part is they were only sitting about 2 feet apart, and the first buddy did not even move his hand to catch it, like he was resting his hand half open on his knee when the lighter was thrown, and he did not move his hand at all. The lighter just disappeared inside his hand. Hard to explain, but me and someone else in the room were both like, did anyone else just see that? But the 2 guys who did it just played it cool. I saw a bee eat a piece of cheese. It was horrifying. I didn't know it was possible. It was probably a type of wasp, not a bee. Wasps can and do munch up all sorts of things, including meat and cheese. Bees will eat human flesh if they get desperate enough, but it has to be already dead. My ex, American, met him in the US, and my other ex, Dutch, met him 3 years later in Argentina, work at the same office in Amsterdam. They are colleagues. I found out cause I saw a FB post in which they were at the same office 2 years after me and Dutchy broke up, and I still live in Argentina. Also, some years ago, I was in a relationship with a guy. We lived together in a tiny apartment. The relationship ended in a terrible way. 4 years later, I started dating another guy. He takes me to his house. It was the apartment I used to share with my ex. And let me tell you, Buenos Aires is a huge city. You seem to have a type. It's just the same dude wearing different disguises. I started out in the normal math CL but until my teacher realized I should switch to the advanced CL, but of course I got perfect scores on everything. Gee, we were just about to start the chapter about telling time when I made the switch. H. The advanced math CL but already knew how to tell time. Me. I had all digital clocks at my house. SE. I didn't actually learn how to tell time till I was about to start high school and thought I should learn. Don't worry bro. I still can't sight read analog clocks. If I ever need to use one, I have to use my finger to point up to it and count the hours and minutes. I don't remember learning it in school and I missed some of 2nd grade, so I guess that's why. I've tried to teach myself but it just never sticks. So digital it is. Dang. That's wild. I can't imagine not being able to read a clock, like in the way we can read words. It's amazing the stuff we learned that we don't fully appreciate. Was lying in bed watching a movie and too lazy to move. Saw a small / harmless spider drop down from a thread on the ceiling, obviously heading for the far side of my bed. Even if it wasn't venomous, I didn't want to share my bed with it, but also didn't want to move. Not thinking it'd actually do anything, I reached out my arm towards it, but still quite a few feet away, and started waving my fingers at it in annoyance. To my absolute surprise, it immediately stopped its descent and actually retracted back up its line, while I was sitting there in surprise. Took me a couple of seconds to realize that my hand must have looked like the most giant freaking spider he'd ever seen, standing on its back legs and waving the front 5 and the fuck off, or I'll wreck you dance. That is absolutely what spiders, or rather the tarantulas I keep, will do when irritated. Rear up, wave your front legs around, and show you're willing to fight. That spider saw an Andre the giant-sized other spider going square TF up bro, and he wisely said no to that. Also fun spider fact. They're all venomous. The degree to which it affects humans is usually very mild, except in some notable species. And the spiders mostly use it for digesting prey after injection. Close bracket. Very cool. You speak spider now. Some gifts we don't ask for. I watched a kid on his bike get hit by a car. Somehow he got up like it was nothing. Shock and adrenaline are a haluba drug. I wonder the aches he felt the next day. Oh, those are the worst. I held a stick straight up in the air while pretending to be a magical creature, and then it immediately started raining heavily. Do you still have the stick? I don't know. I have several sticks in my room, but I don't remember what stick it was, or if it's one of the sticks I kept. Watched an ant pick up its injured friend with its 2 front legs and ran away on its last 2 legs like a human would. Edit. I'm aware that ants have 6 legs. I just can't exactly remember what the middle 2 legs were doing, but I want to believe that they were just flailing around while the ant ran. My husband and son were watching ants filing into their hole with their loot. One ant was carrying a piece of wood, but couldn't get through the hole with it. It kept trying, holding up the line of other ants. Upon closer inspection, my husband sees it's actually been impaled with a sliver of wood. He picks up the ant and carefully removes the wood, and the ant fits down the hole. As someone visually impaired, this is a much different world than the one I live in. That was so sweet of him to do. That for the ant was all I could think when I read this. I legit found a $100 bill on the ground. I couldn't believe it myself, but I took it straight to the ATM, and it was accepted. My wife has an artifact, reflective metallic nose ring looking object, embedded in her lower left rib cage between the bone and fatty tissue. It was discovered after an MRI for unrelated issue. Has she ever had surgery? Any possible explanation? Not opus. An artifact means something in the body that's not usual, like horseshoe kidneys for example. They don't cause any problem. Reflective metallic nose ring like object is just his description. It's in reality just normal tissue. When I was a kid, I got a show box and filled it with some sand, a pile of sugar, and a few ants, like 3 or 4. I brought that box into the house and put it in my cabinet. I forgot about the box for like 2 days. When I went to check the box, because I thought the ants couldn't get out, I saw something that still seemed insane to me, but I know what I saw. A military style formation of ants in a large rectangle. sorted by sizes with the smallest ones in front. Like 2, might have been 4, big ones in front of the others facing the formation. The large ones were facing away from the cabinet doors. The ants remained still for like 2 or 3 seconds, then scattered in every direction. You ruined their boot camp graduation ceremony. That's 6 boots per ant. I snuck into the Canadian Parliament building at around 1:30 am on June 27, 1998. I believe it, because I also snuck in once. During the day at age 25 years ago, before there was any real security, RCMP, and cops on vigil like there is today, wandered the hallways of the upper floor, trying the doors to see if any unlocked. Finally someone asked me what I was doing there. Was super easy. Today impossible. Was daytime on a weekday. PS what did you do inside? I just walked around for about 15 minutes and tried to open a bunch of doors, which were all locked. There was major construction happening on the west side of the building at the time. They were digging large holes around the foundation and surrounding areas, and they had built a small temporary enclosure around one of the doors. My 3 buddies and I had just graduated high school and decided to wander around downtown under the false hope that only 18 years olds can muster that doing so would somehow get us laid. We climbed up a dark stairway on the hill at the back of Parliament and reached the wrought iron fence with a locked gate at the top. We could see 2 security guards, or, upon reflection, they were probably our MCP, who were doing rounds of the entire construction area, since it basically left the side of the Parliament building open. My one buddy dared someone to try and sneak in. I was easily the most timid of the group. I couldn't even bring myself to speak to girls on most days. But for some reason that night I gave 0 fucks and just hopped over the fence while my buddies loudly whisper hissed for me to come back. I ran between the various cat construction equipment, trying to stay in the dark patches, pausing to watch and memorize the route the 2 security guys were taking. The temporary door to the small enclosure was unlocked. I had seen one of the guards open it from our hiding spot behind the fence. I sprinted the last 15 yards or so, which were illuminated by construction floodlights, and in the open, certain I'd be caught. But I made it into the door without making a sound. The actual door to Parliament on the inside was open, so I just went inside. The harder part was sneaking back out. I had to retrace my route, and because I had been inside in the light for so long, my eyes had adjusted, so I couldn't see shit. Once I made it back to the darkness of the construction equipment, I nearly tripped a half dozen times on my way back to the gate. My buddies had bailed on me within 5 minutes, assuming I'd been caught and wanting to put as much distance between me and them. I eventually found them at the base of the hill near the river, where I was met with a mixture of high fives and questions about my intelligence. None of us got laid. Got a hole in one playing golf by myself with no one else around me on the course. Most of my friends take my word it, but still give me a hard time saying it never happened. I've golfed since was 13, and was at one point a 4 or 5 handicap, had broken par etc. Played high school golf, and used to golf alone all the time, and that was my greatest fear. Looking back, I'd rather have gotten one with no one to see than being 30 and not having one. I've had 2 lip out, but what's worse is my friend Hoss Godawful got one 2 years ago at a tough course. Blind shot over water, we couldn't find his ball and someone decides to look in the hole and bam, the King Greg. My old boss has a Renex IVM brand. I saw it when she reached up to get something and panicked because it just seems rude to point out the branded skin on another person. I immediately recognized the symbol, and it was surreal. I was immersed in podcasts and stuff about that at the time. Do I want to Google this? NXIVM is a cult that started as a MLM company and somehow progressed into young women starving themselves, being branded with an old guy and a random B-list actress's initials and LARPing slavery. It's a lot more, but there's the gist. I saw David Wenham, Ferrami, low TR, at a cafe downtown. He was just walking by with someone I assume may have been a friend or partner. You just don't get celebrities where I live very often. I told one of my mates and he didn't believe me. It was him. My so was at a coffee shop many years ago in Amherst, MA, when a guy walked in, head down, and just sat on the stage, pulled out a steel guitar and started playing. My so ignored it for a bit before he realized the guy was playing Zeppelin tunes. He walked up to ask the guy where he learned to play those tunes on a steel guitar. When the guy looked up, it was John Paul Jones. He just stood there speechless and then walked away to fangirl. Jesus Christ. Lucky man. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. The owls. When my grandpa passed away in November of 2008, I was at my dad's house. The front yard is almost enclosed by pine trees. I kept hearing weird noises, so I decided to go outside and see what it was. We shone a light on the trees and was greeted by many pairs of eyes. There had to be at least 20 owls just hanging out in the trees. My grandpa had an interesting way with birds, and we had a very close bond. That was the only time the owls had ever been to our house. Until my mastiff passed away last year, I was home alone, brushing my teeth, when I heard the familiar sound. I thought I was going crazy, but no, there they were, owls in the trees. A completely different time of year. 12 years later, the owls keep watch. Teach us your ways, O chosen one of owls. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.